This is going to be a long season, man. Long season. Mr. PNP here again. I know there's a game kick-off in an hour, so I'm going to try and keep this video very short and sweet. I'm not talking about the FA Cup. We were never in that competition. It never happened. FA Cup chat is not happening on this at this moment in time. So we'll keep it Prem because obviously that is the bread and butter of why I'm doing this at the moment. And of course, Prem is the only thing I can have a little bit of success in at the moment because apparently we don't get beat by the bigger teams there. So we'll go into it anyway. Last week's fixtures, we'll start off the Friday night football. That would have been Fulham 1, Wolverhampton 1. I didn't actually get to see this game actually. From the looks of it, Wolves obviously held their own. Fulham, we know obviously how good they are this season. I think they were out Mitrovic as well for the game. But from what I saw, pretty evenly matched. So not necessarily shocked by the outcome of that, to be quite honest, because Wolves are one of those teams that are very unpredictable. And Fulham, without a focal point, don't necessarily carry the same threat. But Solomon, I understand, is in fantastic form. Looks like an incredible signing for them as well. And he did score again in that competition we are not going to name today. 1-1 last week in Craven Cottage. Everton 0, Aston Villa 2. This was probably one of the shock ones for me over the weekend. It shouldn't have been, considering Aston Villa came and did the exact same thing to us. Just kind of sat back, soaked everything up, and then literally sucker punched Everton. I think the first goal was a penalty from Ollie Watkins, and then Buendia got the second, like he did in the fixture against us at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Again, one of those games that doesn't really mean much to any club at this moment in time. Everton probably will stay up. Aston Villa will absolutely stay up, but they're not going to be a threat to anyone in the top 10. So it's kind of just one of those sort of mid-table, mediocre matches. But a good win for Aston Villa nonetheless. Should have carried that same energy last week, to be quite honest with you. But as it is, Goodison Park, it ended Everton 0, Aston Villa 2. Again, another game I didn't really see. Speaking of same energy, we go to the King Power Stadium next. That was Leicester 0 versus Arsenal, who scored in the second half, 55th minute, I believe it was, Martinelli. Same energy, Leicester. So you can pump us at home 4-1, but you can't do the same thing to them, no? Yeah, I see what it is. It's fine. It's fine. You got exactly everything you deserved on that on last week against them. Everything you deserve, because they're not good. They weren't good at all. Leicester did not carry a threat whatsoever. They too got knocked out of that competition we are not going to speak about midweek. So it serves them right. So you know what? Yeah, it serves you right. You deserve everything you get. One of the games I did actually see, which was that one, Leicester were terrible. Arsenal probably should have been outside in the first half. Leicester didn't create much. Arsenal created plenty, had a goal disallowed, which was a foul on the goalkeeper. Comfortable for them. There were, again, 5 points clear, and obviously we'll go into their midweek game against Everton, which was obviously should have been played earlier in the season, but we'll get into that one a little bit later on. But that ended 1-0 to Arsenal from the King Power. London Stadium next, massive win for West Ham. That ended 4-0 against Nottingham Forest, who have run into a very decent run of form recently before this game. Actually top of the stats actually in relation to the results they got since the turn of the year. West Ham needed that. Massive win for them. Antonio back on the score sheet again. Just one of those games that I didn't anticipate that kind of scoreline. I went for a 1-1 draw due to the fact that Nottingham Forest usually tend to sort of be more selective with their counter-attacks away from home. And West Ham just being plain useless, basically. But that wasn't the case, and West Ham showed me and pretty much shut me up. So, good win for them. Danny Ings on the score sheet again as well. I think he scored twice, so he's up and running now. And West Ham, one of those clubs that will be safe this season. Nottingham Forest, again, another one that will be safe. I'm not worried about any one of those two at this moment in time. A club that I am worried about, though, is Southampton. They went to Leeds, Ellen Road last week, and got beat 1-0. I think Southampton are gone. If I'm being honest. I mean, the year West Brom went down, they beat Chelsea 5-2 at Stamford Bridge. Southampton went to Chelsea last week, 2 weeks ago, and beat them 1-0. And I wasn't necessarily shocked by that because Southampton are capable of getting results like that. But ultimately, they're just not good enough defensively. They're not good enough offensively. they don't have a water carrier, which is obviously a midfielder that can obviously transition from defence to the attack. James Ward-Prowse is very good at what he does, but he can't do it all by himself. And I do hope that he gets a move away in the summer. And I do hope he gets that move to us, to be quite honest, because I'd love him at my club. But as it was, Leeds United come away with the 3 points from Ellen Road. Really, really good start there from Javi Gracia, who's the new manager there, of course. Southampton, it's going to be a long season for them. Leeds United will be down there or thereabouts. I don't think they'll go down, but I think they'll be there or thereabouts. I don't think Leeds have enough to sort of maintain a push up the league from where they're at the moment. So I've got Leeds sort of finishing around about 16th, 17th. Southampton, for me, are probably going to finish bottom of the league based on the fact that they can't defend properly and they don't score enough goals, which is obviously never a good recipe. Bournemouth versus Manchester City from the Vitality. That was a game that I expected Man City to win. Obviously, Arsenal winning already in the day meant City had to come out fighting against Bournemouth, and boy, did they give them a whooping. 4-1 it ended. Though Bournemouth did play well in the second half, I think Manchester City kind of just took their foot off the gas, because I think they were already 3-0 up at half-time in that game, and kind of just sort of toyed with them in a second. But yeah, one of those games, again, you anticipate Man City were always going to come out. They were always going to knock in a couple of goals and then sort of be comfortable for the rest of the game. And that's exactly how it panned out. Bournemouth didn't necessarily have an answer for them. I don't envisage Bournemouth having an answer for Arsenal this weekend either. So I think it's going to be another whooping there as well. But again, we'll get into those once I go into the predictions a bit later on. Crystal Palace versus Liverpool at Selhurst Park. Not a favourite stomping ground for Liverpool, if I'm being quite honest. We obviously also know what happened, the reason Brendan Rodgers doesn't have a Premier League title to his name when he was manager there, 2013-14 season. Some people might remember it, some people might not. For those that don't remember it, just remember Dwight Gale. 2 goals in the space of 5 minutes? To obviously gate crash the party, and obviously Liverpool not winning the Premier League, Man City going on to win it that year. This game was nothing like that 3-3. 0-0 draw. Boring game, actually, I thought. There wasn't really much that happened. Not really many sort of clear-cut goal-scoring chances. Crystal Palace without Zaha are very terrible. It just is what it is. They're very, very, very poor without him. There's no ingenuity, no creativity. I mean, you got Elise in the team. He's very, very good at what he does. Again, can't do it by himself. You can't have donkeys like Ayew in a starting lineup and expect to win big games like that. It just doesn't happen. And then you keep Eze on the bench. Just play Elise and Eze in the same team every game. Like, what are you doing, Vieira? I just don't understand the sort of thought process behind playing Ayew. What does Jordan Ayew actually bring to you and your club? Like, what is this about? I've never understood that player. I really haven't. For a striker, I think he's got like 55 goals and like 330 odd appearances. Like, those are midfielder stats. Do you know what I mean? Get it together. As for Liverpool, they'll probably be in the hunt for the top 4. I don't think they'll get it. I think we'll get the last 4th spot. And we've still got to go to Anfield as well. Liverpool obviously are playing Manchester United this weekend on Sunday, which we'll obviously go into as well. But Liverpool seemingly seem to be picking up a little bit of form. They played Wolverhampton in midweek, which was the other Premier League game that should have been played earlier in the season, but never got to be done for various reasons. So they obviously got that rescheduled. And finally, we'll go to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. No particular reason I left it last. It just happened to be the last game on that Sunday. And yeah, ended up beating Chelsea 2-0, which I said would happen. I was very, very confident that we beat them. They just don't have anything at the moment. At this moment in time, Chelsea have signed too many players. It reminds me of us when we sold the Gareth Bale money and we signed 7 players in one transfer window, and it just did not work. And Chelsea are in that sort of situation at the moment with a manager who's never managed at that kind of club before. He's not going to be afforded the time. He's under all types of pressure. There was absolutely no way we were going to lose this one, especially at home. And I just knew it wasn't going to happen for them. And as so it proved, Oliver Skipp has scored his first ever goal for us in the Premier League. And what a goal it was. Probably goal of the weekend for me. And Harry Kane does what Harry Kane does. Put the ball in the back of the net. Not really much more I can really say about Chelsea, to be quite honest, other than the fact that they're absolutely terrible. And they will continue to be so. It's just, it is what it is. There's not really much more you could say about Graham Potter that hasn't been said already. He's a dead man walking at the moment for me. I don't think he's going to last the rest of the season. But if you do sack him, who do you get in? That's the dilemma for me. You sold the best manager that you had, which was Tuchel. Had you kept him at the helm after letting him spend 200, 300 odd million in the transfer market, why wouldn't you let him sort of see that out up until at least sort of, Christmas, after the New Year, after the World Cup? And now this is why they're in the perilous position that they are at the moment. Chelsea might be going back down to the doldrums or 12th, 13th in the league, which is where they were before they got all that money anyway. So it's peak for them at the moment. As for us, top four is still there. We're still 5 points clear at the moment, I believe, ahead of Newcastle, who obviously they had a game in hand because they played Man United in the Carabao Cup final on Sunday, which I won a lot of money on, by the way, which I'm very happy about. Thank you, Marcus Rashford. Yeah, not much I could say about us at this moment in time because we're very wishy-washy at the moment. We're a club right now, when we show up, it's a matter of how are we feeling today? What do we feel like we're going to do? Do we feel like we're going to go and punch man up, or do we feel like it's just not that kind of day? It's very cold, we're not really up for it, because that's kind of what I get from us. We're not committed to the cause every week. We're not. It just doesn't seem to correlate, and it showed. It absolutely showed midweek in that competition we are not going to mention for the fourth time in this video. Anyway, on to the midweek Premier League games. Arsenal versus Everton up first from the Emirates. 4-0 to Arsenal. Everton just weren't very good. They just weren't very good. I'm not going to say Arsenal were good because they're at home and I expect them to beat Everton, but Everton were just terrible up until like the 42nd minute. They were woof. And then obviously after Arsenal got the first goal, Everton then decided to play and open up the game a bit more, which obviously allowed Arsenal in a few more times, and then they got peppered in the end, and it just formality, end of the day. Arsenal have got a couple of games like this now, so I'm not going to be able to bash on them as much as I want to, because they'll probably win those games upcoming now. And then the second game was from Anfield. That was Liverpool 2, Wolverhampton 0. Good game, that one, actually, from what I caught. But it was one of those games that Liverpool weren't about to lose. And obviously, if they wanted to make up ground in the race for the top four, then these are the games you have to win, and win they duly did. Mo Salah on the score sheet again as well. There's a better balance about Liverpool when Diogo Jota's in the side. And I like Diogo Jota. I think he's a really good player. I think he's a clever player as well. And he's the one that kind of sort of stretches the defence, because he is a willing runner and he likes to obviously keep the width. But whilst he's keeping the width, whilst Liverpool have the ball and are obviously about to pounce on attack, he's one of those clever players that can obviously go in round the back, or he can literally play in front of you, play off the shoulder. Very, 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 very clever player. And I find he's sort of a better fit when there's a focal point in the team. So Salah on the right, Jota on the left, and then you have a Nunes or a Firmino in the middle. And likelihood Liverpool probably win that game. And that's kind of what I saw in midweek. So I think Jota will probably start this weekend in the Liverpool-Manchester United game. Yeah, and I heard Firmino is leaving as well at the end of the season. Sky Germany reported that Firmino was about to be leaving Liverpool. But yeah, good win for them and their push for the top four. On to the Premier League predictions for this weekend. Obviously, like I said before, I know there's a game coming up in about 45 minutes time. Manchester City versus Newcastle from the Etihad. I'm going to go for a 3-0 win. I just don't think Newcastle are at the same level that they were before, which game was it? The Liverpool game, which was a couple of weeks ago. They're not at the same level. Been on a little bit of a losing streak as well, and I think that does continue today. I do have Erling Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne are both on the score sheet today also. On to the 3 o'clock kickoffs. Chelsea versus Leeds United, Stamford Bridge. I've gone for a 1-0 Chelsea win. Don't ask me why. I just feel like it's one of those games, especially there. Leeds United, I know beat Southampton, and Southampton in turn beat Chelsea last week. I just think this might be the time for Chelsea to start turning the tide a little bit. With home form not being the best, I think the crowd will be behind them, and I'll go for a Chelsea 1-0 win. Leeds could easily turn them over, to be quite honest, because Leeds do like to play a fast counter-attacking system as well, and they do have players that can hurt you. But I will go for a Chelsea win at Stamford Bridge. Arsenal versus Bournemouth next from the Emirates. That's going to be a mauling for me. I don't think Bournemouth have a chance in hell there, to be quite honest with you. I think they're going to try and keep it tight, but they'll be undone within the first half an hour, I think. I'm going to go for an Arsenal 3-0 win there. Martinelli to be on the score sheet for me on that one. Actually, probably Saka too, to be quite honest. The same two that obviously caused havoc against Everton midweek. 3-0 win to Arsenal for me on that one. Aston Villa versus Crystal Palace from Villa Park. So it would seem Aston Villa aren't the same kettle of fish at home than they are away. Away fixtures have been a lot more home-like to them, if you like. I think they get a bit nervous at home. And Crystal Palace are the type of team to exploit that, especially with everyone fit. I don't think Zaha is back yet. For that reason, I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. If Eze and Elise play in the same side, Crystal Palace are going to cook. And I do think Aston Villa concede today. So I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw, that one. Brighton versus West Ham. That's live from the Amex. We'll go for a Brighton home win. Just because the West Ham don't travel well. They've been terrible all season away from it. I think they've only won one game since the Premier League has started this season. And Brighton, obviously, we know what they're about. Very capable of beating anyone at home on their patch. And I've got Mitoma to score in that game because I think he's due a goal. I think he's missed the last 3 without scoring now. I think that changes today. I'm going to go with a Brighton 2-0 win. Wolverhampton versus my beloved Spurs from Molineux. I hate going there. It's one of those grounds I hate going to because you're always going to be in for a tough game. No matter what kind of form you're in, Wolves always seem to get the best out of their players for us. The last few games there have not been nice. Yeah, we won a few there, of course. We've drawn a few there as well. We've lost a couple. But it's just never a nice time up there. They do like to play. They're very technically gifted. Ruben Neves is one to watch for me in this game, and see how he controls the midfields. He'll probably be up against Højbjerg and Skip today. If we can get amongst them, I think we've got every chance to win this game. But we've got to start off fast. We can't do what we did in midweek and just stand off and everything. We've got to go out there and we've got to attack everything. And I do believe we'll get a draw out of this today. I think we'll get a 1-1. Obviously hoping for more. Obviously hoping we do pump them, but I just don't see how we're going to do that today. I'll be intrigued to see. I'm going to watch it, obviously. I'll be intrigued to see the kind of system we play and the personnel we have within it. I think I could probably give you the lineup, but I'll wait for the 3 o'clock kickoff. Before then, 1-1 draw for me at Molineux, hoping for a 2-3-1 win, obviously. Southampton versus Leicester. That is going to be at St Mary's. This one's got draw written all over it, to be quite honest. Leicester seems to have run out of form and run out of juice again. And it's Southampton, they're bottom of the league. And that's all I've really got to say about that. 1-1 draw for me, Southampton 1, Leicester 1. Nottingham Forest versus Everton. I think this is going to be another loss for Everton. This is tomorrow, by the way. This is one of the 2 o'clock kickoff on Sunday. Yeah, Nottingham Forest on a Sunday afternoon at the City Ground. It's a no-brainer for me. 2-0 to Nottingham Forest. Everton will try to defend, but I just don't think they have enough about them to do that under Dyche just yet. I don't think he's had enough time to get his ideas across, and I do think Nottingham Forest will take this based on the fact that they just play a lot quicker than Everton do and have the players that can hurt. Liverpool versus Manchester United, which is obviously the big Super Sunday game. I've gone for a 2-2 draw for this one. I think I put 1-1 actually in the Super 6. I think it was 1-1 I put. I'm going to go 2-2. I'm going to change that as well. I think it'll be in a draw regardless anyway. No matter what form Liverpool are in, when they play Man United, they always seem to want to up their game against them. United obviously in better form, just come off that amazing Europa League night. Obviously won the cup as well. Rashford hasn't scored in his last couple though, since that cup final win. And even then that was a little bit dubious. But obviously it was given to him. But I do see him on the score sheet for this game. I do as well see Salah on the score sheet as well. It's one of those games that I feel, at Anfield especially, no matter the form of either club, it's always a game worth watching because there's usually always a lot of tension and a lot of goals in it. So I do see a lot of yellow cards. And I do see a couple of decent goals as well. So I will go with a 2-2 draw. On that one. And then finally, to complete game week 26, I think we're in now. Yep. Brentford versus Fulham, a nice West London derby. Live from the G-Tech. That would be, I am probably going to go with a Brentford win 2-1 on that one, and it's going to be a very, very tight 2-1 win as well, because I know how good Brentford are. I know how really good Fulham are. Obviously both having fantastic seasons, and I think Brentford can actually go into the top 6 if they win, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to look at the table, I can't remember, but I know Fulham currently occupy I think it's 7th at the moment. Liverpool are in 6th at the minute. Yeah, so I think any one of those two win. I think one of them jump into the top 6. 2-1 win for me. Obviously, the news about Ivan Toney pleading guilty apparently has come to light, but he has actually said himself it hasn't come to any conclusion yet, so keep an eye out for that to see what happens with it. I think he's in big trouble anyway. But funnily enough, if he does play, I do see him on the score sheet. Same with Mitrovic. If Mitrovic is playing, Mitrovic will probably score as well, as he does like the physical sort of part of the game. Ben Mee will be well up for that, obviously, but I think Mitrovic gets the best of him, and I do think Mitrovic gets on the score sheet for a consolation for Fulham. That's my roundup. I'm going to do another one next week at some point, probably a Thursday or a Friday, but obviously, you know, if you want to watch the videos, then obviously get to subscribing, and then obviously we'll have another discussion. Get involved in this one. Enjoy the games today and tomorrow, and I'll see you guys next week in a bit.